Welcome to another edition of Question and Answer with the Criminal Defense Attorney. I am Mark Solomon, a defense attorney in Denver, Colorado, and today's question is about whether or not the police can get a DNA sample. So, before I get going, don't forget to like and subscribe. You like this video and subscribe, hit the bell, it'll make sure you get further updates. Now, let's get on to the question. Can the police take my DNA or do they need a search warrant? The answer is they almost always need a search warrant, okay? The only time they don't need a search warrant is if you give consent. In other words, if you allow them to take DNA, they'll take it if they ask for it. If they want to get it without your permission, then they will need to get a warrant. What does that look like? Let's take a look. Now, this is a warrant, it's an order signed by a judge specifically for a DNA sample. Now, this particular warrant says the reasons for it. It's both the affidavit and the order. And so this is saying that with good grounds and reason for these charges, we order detective to take this. And the important part of it is right here, Rule 41.1. Okay, let's look at that. Rule 41.1, it's a court order for non-testimonial identification. All they have to do is have probable cause that the warrant will return DNA that will help them in their case with enough reason, and the judge will grant it, and they will do what's called a buccal swab. Here's another order pursuant to Rule of Criminal Procedure 16. Different way they can do the exact same thing. And essentially that allows them to do a buccal swab. Now, what is a buccal swab? The answer to that is they take a Q-tip and they swab, there we go, and they swab the inside of one or both cheeks, they stick it in a test tube, and they send it off to a lab. That buccal swab is what they're going to try to match to evidence that they collected at the scene of the crime or on some thing that they collected. They're trying to do a match between two DNA samples, and that's how they go about getting it. So if a police officer ever asks you to submit to a buccal swab or to give a DNA sample, your best bet is to tell them to get a warrant, because we can challenge the warrant. It's difficult to challenge permission, okay? The only other time that I can imagine that they're going to take DNA in any case is when you get booked into the detention center on a felony. They will usually take a buccal swab there too. But that's not for evidence purposes. That gets put into their DNA database that they use for categorizing people, and they will look for it later on if they get a sample. They'll run a sample DNA against their database DNA. So if your felony case is dismissed, you can also submit a motion to the court to get rid of that sample in the database once you're no longer in a felony case and the felony case has been dismissed. Okay, so that's the question and answer for today. If you would like to submit your question for me to answer on future videos, please send me an email at mark@solomonesq.com or tag me on Twitter. And as always, you have a right to remain silent. If a police officer asks you what you've done, where you've been, or to take a test for DNA, your best bet is always to say, I do not want to talk to you. I want a lawyer. And with today's question, don't forget, get a warrant. And with that, thanks for joining us and have a wonderful day.